Perhaps Dave could comment on the other two.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, a lot of times the young adults are wanting teaching at a local church level that is engaging, and a lot of times they just find things very restrictive, and they ask questions. Well, why? Why do you say this? Mm-hmm. And just because doesn't seem to be a good enough answer. So that's another reason why it seems like some of these students have sort of wandered away. And they look also for a very live community, not a stagnant community. It seems like, especially if they've had great camp experiences or great on-campus experiences, they come to a local church and it just seems stagnant and dead. And they want to get involved. They say, can I get involved somehow? And they're not allowed to unless they jump through so many hoops. And so they say, okay, I'm not going to be there then.
And while we're talking to the two of you, these four categories or types of people, so right from those that are still interested in engagement in their faith, right through to rejecting their faith, could you tell us, describe those people? What's a day in the life like for an engaged young adult versus a rejecting young adult?
Yeah, so I mean, an engaged young adult is someone who not only attends church, but someone who really has a vibrant faith. It's coming alive, it's making a difference in their life. They're reflecting the character and the nature of Jesus. Whereas someone on the opposite spectrum, someone who is a rejecter, is clearly someone who's just walked away. They've been wounded by the church most often. They haven't experienced God, and so they've just kind of decided that they're done and they've closed that door.
And James was saying that a number of those folks are heading toward other options, like things even like atheism.
As far as the rejecting category, yeah, I think a lot of them are.
Because they're so hurt?
I think a lot out of pain, for sure. Interestingly enough, I think that's also the group of people that want to come back to church, but want to know that it's a place that offers safety and a place of belonging. I know for myself that was my own story, where 6 years ago I actually fit in that category, was a rejecter, very much did not like the church, thought that it was a place where there was just a lot of pain that took place. And
Why?
Then all of a sudden...
Why? What led you to that conclusion?
During my upbringing, I belonged to a church that went through quite a horrific split. And in the process of that, ended up really wounded, and so didn't really want anything to do with what I called organized religion at the time.
So there's hope for a rejecter.
Yeah.
And was it a need you felt, or was it a crisis you experienced in that rejection time?
Yeah, I moved to a new city and started attending university. And out of that, just realized I was incredibly lonely and needed community. And so got plugged into a church that really engaged me in my pain and let me walk it through. And brought me out on the other side in a place of healing and a place of restoration. And I pastor there now.
Well, thank you in the midst of these statistics for that hopeful spirit. And we'll come back to that in the end. But
another point, Don, we did 72 interviews across the country. And we have some fascinating stories of young adults that came back to faith. So one fellow says, "When did your faith spike?" He said, "It was the day I woke up with a hospital bracelet on, in my underwear and t-shirt. I'd been in a bar the night before, but I couldn't remember what happened." He said, "I phoned a buddy, and he said, 'You were hilarious. You were defending God against an atheist.'" And he said, "It was like, I am such a hypocrite." And that was the moment that literally, all by himself, through faith, he changed his whole life around. And we have a number of stories in our interviews where there was someone who was a prodigal a long ways away, who all of a sudden had a dynamic experience which brought them back to faith.
Thank you. And of course, no one, we would all agree, no one is too far away for God's Spirit to want to draw them back. James, however, for our church leadership that are perhaps watching today, I've been struck by this notion of the toxins to this generation of young adults that often are found in churches.
Yeah.
Toxicity, it's a pretty raw sounding word. What are those things that repel?
There's 5 things within congregations that repel young adults. One is hypocrisy. We talk a good game, but we're not living it. Number 2 is judgment. You get slammed here if you step out of line. Number 3, exclusivity. Some people are in here. It's cliquey. Other people are not. Number 4, what do you do if I've slept with my boyfriend or girlfriend? Do you have a way to restore me out of moral failure, or if I doubt God or something the church teaches? And lastly, voice. Is this a spectator sport, or is my contribution truly valued? Is this ministry with young adults, or something you're doing to young adults?
And they want
With.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is what you're saying. Dave, despair or hope?
Oh, boy. I'd say tremendous hope. I see the slide of the church in Canada, and it's frightening. But I also see studies like this where we're not just throwing up our arms and saying, this is the world, we can't do anything about it. We're saying, let's look at this and find solutions. And there are solutions. So it's exciting hope for me. And there are great examples of churches that are alive and growing and attracting this next generation.
Thank you. And tomorrow, I'm pleased that you'll be back. What I'd like to do is really address the implications of what we found. The things on my mind are to say, if we had the young adults here and they could create a church of their choosing, what would it look like?
Cool.
And then I would like you to address the most important things for parents to do as a result, and the most important things for our pastors and churches to be doing. I think that'll be very helpful to our viewers. Rick, back to you. The origin of this report, like where did it come from? Who thought of it?
Well, the Evangelical Fellowship of Canada brings together different ministry partnerships, and the basic question is, what can we do better together than apart? And the EFC Youth and Young Adult Ministry Roundtable was the group that dreamed about this research and commissioned it. And so Dave is one of the members of that roundtable, and so Dave and others are responsible for bringing it to life. And
so the youth leader community themselves
That's
said,
right.
Yeah.
we need to have this. They looked to EFC, or Evangelical Fellowship of Canada, to coordinate, which is a wonderful role for them. How does one get the report, Rick?
We have a website, hemorrhagingfaith.com. Perhaps we could put that up on the screen for the viewers. You can go to that site and purchase the report and download it in a PDF form, and we'd be happy for you to do that, to talk about it in your churches, and to have a conversation about what's going on with young adults in Canada.
Excellent. May I thank all of you for participating, and can't wait till tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you.
All the best.